Hey there people, we're back on my desktop. But we are not here talking about the sword art utilities. I've done videos about that already. But someone asked me where they could get this background that I'm using. Well, actually I made this background myself the day that I got the sword art utilities. I think I mentioned that in the video. I mean, I've since made it so I can make my videos longer than 15 minutes, but I think it was part 2 or whatever. And I used to have a DeviantArt account, and I could post this on there and let people download it or whatever, but what would be the fun in that? So I've decided to make a kind of tutorial for how to make a background like this. Also, excuse any noises again. Heard some upstairs roommates making a bunch of racket shortly before I started this recording, so we'll see how everything goes. Hopefully it won't be too bad. So for this you can either use Photoshop or GIMP. I've poked with GIMP. I do not like it. Some people like it better than Photoshop, more power to them. I will personally be using Photoshop for this tutorial. But you can take what you learned here and apply it to GIMP. I think they have mostly the same features now. I don't really know. I poked with GIMP like many years ago. So anyway, so this is actually the file that I have the background in. This is where I made it. I can, hide circles and things. The reason that these gray boxes up here correlate to like my HP bar is this right here is a screenshot I took of one of the earlier versions of this background when I was making it. As you can see, like the Sword Art OS is a lot bigger than it is in the final version over here. Also, you can see how impossible it is to see the text and stuff on the HP bars. And when I realized that, I was like, I need something to darken it. Well, in the utilities, you can't darken the UI. So what I figured I would do was I would just take a snapshot and then trace this out in Photoshop and put that here. That's another reason I can't just post this online, is because I would have to get rid of this and blah 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 blah, get rid of that, and then you would have to do it yourself if you wanted to be able to see it, or if you moved your HP bar somewhere else. All in all, it's a big hassle. I don't really feel like doing that. Now this is kind of a clusterfuck of layers over here, honestly. Like this right there is that little OK right there. There's the logo. And this is surprisingly simple to make, honestly. I'm not a fancy pantsy artist when it comes to things. I'm just a editor. So this picture right here, that's the logo. That is legitimately the logo. I googled Sword Art Online logo and found that, and was like, cool. Along with the circles, the text circles, those can be found on a person's DeviantArt page. I linked those in the description of my SAO utilities tutorial. And then finally, the hexagon pattern that's tiled in the background that you see is actually on this layer right over here. If I was to hide everything else, and then if I crank the opacity up, you can see that this is actually a really dark hexagon pattern. I googled hexagon pattern and pow, hexagons. So that's that. And some people were asking, oh, the background, it looks nice. Well, I don't think I'm going to be giving it away, but here is a tutorial on how to make a background. So yeah, we'll call this I have a rough idea of what I want to do for this, so I'm going to call this Gun Gale Online background, and I have a 1080p monitor, so we'll be making this in 1080p. No, I don't want to ruin that by saving it. Okay, so this is not going to be a basic Photoshop tutorial. I can do one of those, but I'm not going to be like, and if you hold down this key, then blah blah blah. Now, I'll say what I'm doing, and if you can't figure it out, then you should probably not be doing like image editing. You should probably learn how to do image editing first, and then go back and watch this on how to make a background. First and foremost, I have already, if you see down here, I have this assets folder. I've already downloaded some images that I think will work well for what I'm trying to do, and I'll have these linked in the description. You can just download them. You don't even have to download them. You can just pull the image out and copy paste it into here. I just downloaded it so I wouldn't have to open up a browser while I'm doing this. First and foremost, I don't like locked background layers in Photoshop, and I think I'm just going to make this all black for now. That's just a color entire layer command, and I think we will start with the stone. Now, when I first decided last night that I was going to make a tutorial for how to like make a background or something, I figured, oh well, I should probably make like a Gun Gale background or something, and there goes the water running in the kitchen. And I was like, well, what kind of feeling do you get from Gun Gale Online? And I mean the game, not the season or the show or whatever. And they don't show you much of the world, but it's a very grim, kind of dank world. And there's a couple scenes that show like Kirito and Sinon at the beginning walking across like the city area, and at the very beginning you can see Sinon working with her crew to try to take out the what are they, the farmers or whatever, the grinders, I don't know, the PvE player guys. And that's cool and all, but it's really bleak. Very, very, very bleak. So I thought a kind of a stone idea would work for that. And this isn't the highest resolution thing in the world, but I think it'll probably work for what we're trying to do. And on top of that, I had an idea for an interesting kind of textured stone. So what I decided to do was find just a picture of mud cracks. And you'd be surprised when I went to like, I googled mud cracks, and I got a bunch of things with like watermarks over them and stuff, and I'm like, who's going to steal your picture of mud cracks? Like, really, people? That's what you're concerned about, huh? I don't know, I think it's kind of ridiculous. Now, for this is way, way, way too light for what I'm trying to do, because it's kind of got a dark feeling. Ooh, not that button. This is layer styles in Photoshop. You can double click, pop it open. I'm not sure if GIMP has something like this that lets you add effects onto your layers, but I was thinking of just doing something simple like color overlaying it and just making it a bit darker. The reason I'm doing it as a color overlay and not changing it is because I can always just toggle the effects on and off if I decide I don't want it later. As for the mud cracks, I do not want the brown in there, so I'll just go up here and make it black and white. And that way it just removes any color, because I don't really feel like dealing with that. Now this right here is actually one of my favorite things ever for making backgrounds and stuff. This is the blending layer options in Photoshop. I'm not sure if GIMP has anything like that, but I can just cycle through these and you'll see what it does. It can do some kind of crazy things to your layers and make things very, very, very ridiculous very quickly. Like here you can see that it's called overlay. It works together. It takes some of the really hard lines and things from the layer that is blended and puts it on the layer beneath it. And that's kind of what we're going for. It's the cracked stone look. It's because I took the stone Then I put the mud cracks on it, and now it's cracked stone. I want something really dark, though. Like, I kind of like something like that, but at that point, then I should probably either crank this way. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's a real nasty, kind of serious gray shades kind of thing. I like the super emphasized shadows on the corners and stuff here. So okay, there's some mud cracks. Now, what I was originally going to base this all around is a bullet hole in the center of the screen, and I was going to do something with that, and we'll get to that in a second. But hexagons, back to hexagons. Now, I was talking about hexagons before, how much I like hexagons. at least for anything that's kind of like futuristic-y. Like, if you want to make it look like all sci-fi and stuff, I'm a really big fan of just using hexagons for things. I don't know why. I just feel that they have this nice futuristic feel to them. No, it's actually, I'm not sure I'm going to need it that big. I think I'm going to center it and make it a little bit bigger. Because, I mean, when you're scaling things, it does pixelate them. For some things, it's ignorable. For other things, a bit less ignorable. So, yeah, with the whole hexagon look, some people will be like, I don't like hexagons. They're weird. Why do you just use hexagons? Well, I like them. So, yeah, that's probably good for what I want to do here. What I'm thinking is that I'm going to go with a red, kind of a red theme with this. And I mean, you can make it whatever color you want, but I was trying to think of something that really gives me the feeling from Gun Gale that, like, it's dark, there's people dying, you know, it's a pretty serious, all in all kind of feeling that you get from everything. It's not happy, you're not, oh yay, they're going and skipping across the rainbows. It's nothing like that, you know. So I think a bit red, blood, creepypastas. No, that's someone else's channel's job, not mine. Now, I'm not sure how I want this to look exactly, so I'm going to just duplicate this layer, make a copy of it, and keep the original. Because I have to rasterize this, and before it would scale back to the normal size properly. Now as a raster image, if you make it small, make it big, make it small, make it big, it'll look really awful. So this one kind of retains its pixel integrity, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Now this is a levels editor. I'm not sure if GIMP has it, but you can use it to adjust kind of darkness, brightness, channel layers in it. Like this will make it brighter. Don't want that. I want it to feel darker. That's pretty nice. Yeah. So pull that over there and pull this back a little bit. Get a very, very dark kind of feel from this. Okay, so that kind of adds, the texture by default had this kind of natural gradient to it, and with this I think it makes it, you know, pitch black around the edges and gradients it in a little bit. So for this, I don't know, do I want to blend this into this layer? I mean, I could. If I was, oh, okay. That's interesting. See, this is what I meant by I really like using this for stuff. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I like that. But the issue is that there's just kind of a big box around it. So I think I'm just gonna do something simple to get rid of that, honestly. I think I'm going to take like an ellipse tool and let's feather it to like 50, and let's just drag an ellipse there. Hope that's big enough. I'll copy so I can keep the okay, yeah, that's not sure that's big enough. No, not sure that's big enough. But I don't think there's enough really of the hexagon coming through here. So pretty sure if I can just cheat like this, yeah. If I just make a second copy of it, because it's doing two exclusions in a row from that to that to that, it just kind of enhances the hexagon here in the center. So let's take that and move it there. Yeah, I can do that again later if I want. Whoops. Totally didn't mean to do that. Let's just get rid of this layer. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I'm feeling that like the stone isn't dark enough anymore. There, that's kind of menacing looking. See, this is why I left it on color overlays, because if I'm like, oh, I think it's not menacing enough, I can totally go back and make it look more menacing. Now the red in the center is kind of a little overwhelming because there's not enough red bleeding away from it. So I'm hoping is if I do like an inner glow, here, I'll just make it really big so you can see what this is doing for a second. Oh, you know what? Whoops. It is... The image is actually, if I click here, you'll see it's bigger than the actual screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that and then select. Alright. I can't do it that way. To get rid of everything on the edge, I would have to... I don't feel like cropping. Okay, never mind. I have a different plan. I'm going to take... Yeah. I'm going to take this and just want the same shape as that. And I'm a little curious if this will feather it. No, it won't. Most of this is honestly just kind of trial and error, you know, what works for you, what do you think looks good, what appeals to your sense of style or whatever. You know, like I said, I'm a big hexagon guy. That's too big. I'll just center it up and then edit it again. There we go. So if I was to take like an eraser, yeah, opacity, let's just keep it low or something. I think I should be able to take a little bit of the strength out of the sides of this. Yeah, okay. Soften some of this a little bit around the edges. That way the red will blend better into the stone. It won't quite be as ridiculous. If I'm just going for that, I mean technically I should be able to just like go onto the stone layer with like a brush with like 5% opacity, not 56, 5% opacity, take a nice dark red and go to town. Oh yeah, that works. Okay. I like that. I'm actually going to add a bit of red here in the center to go along with the hexagons. and just a tad bit over here on the sides around where the stone is kind of highlighted white. So this is definitely going to be a kind of dark background. Not near as happy as my current one. So okay, that's kind of simple looking. And I'm just going to plonk the bullet hole here. Now for this, getting rid of the black background is normally hard unless you screen it, in which case, look, it's gone. And this is where we're going to have some issues because we're actually going to have to resize this thing. And it's going to start getting kind of looking whenever you resize something a bunch, and I mean, it doesn't look too bad. I could probably sharpen it a little bit. Yeah, I think sharpening it would definitely be a good idea. Is that big enough? Yeah, maybe. Looks a little bit better. I kind of want it centered but up a little bit. I don't want it dead center. So that'll probably do. And we can filter let's do a smart sharpen and see if this will help us at all. Yeah, definitely, I can see that. I'm not sure if it'll come through on YouTube, but I can see that making a difference. Increase. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now you should totally be able to see the difference between the two of them. It looks a lot better after the sharpen. Okay. Now, with that done, I'm going to duplicate this layer and then hide the original, because I'm going to have to rasterize this, and I can always do this again later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the magic wand, and I'm going to, not the magic wand, I'm going to take the quick selection tool, and you can do this by hand, but it'd be a pain in the ass. I just want the inside of the bullet. And remember, this is actually on a black. So if I do like normal, you can see it's on a black background. I'm selecting the black, and I'm just going to get rid of that. There we go. So now you can actually see through the bullet hole, and it looks more like something shot through there. So now if I go back to screen, you can't really tell any difference because the black is gone. But what this will allow me to do is with some of these other layers, I can continually punch the hole through, and then it'll eventually see back to this black, pitch black layer. So like this. This one's rasterized. So if I select on bullet layer in here, where is it? Should be right there. Bullet hole, where are you? Yeah, it should be able to select in there. What are you doing to me? Maybe magic wand? Yeah, okay. Now that I've deleted it, I can use the magic wand to select the negative space. Okay. Then I can go here, I can delete that. I go on to that's invisible, that's invisible, that's invisible. So now we're down here on these mud cracks. And we don't want those there. And the stone, you can see with the weird red that I drew on it that works with all the other things. Don't need that, so okay. So now on all the layers, it's just seeing all the way back to here. So if I do something ridiculous, like make this white, now it's white, make that black, now it's black, because I'm just editing the background. So we can put whatever we want back there now. And it looks like it has now shot through it. I do, in fact, see one issue with this, though, is it feels like there's no depth to what we shot through. You know, because it's like, oh, it's a flat thing back there, there's no depth, you shot through paper or something. So I'm thinking a good way to do that was if we duplicate the stone layer, and if we just kind of resize it, we should be able to just give it that effect that it shot through to something. Yeah, see, it's already starting to look a little bit better here. So let's take the center point of this image and put it there so it'll scale around that. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. And if I warp it in a little bit, it might not hurt anybody. Which direction do I want it to have shot through? Just straight back or like at an angle? Kind of like that at an angle look. Maybe not that much of an angle. Just enough so it gives you this idea that you shot through it, and honestly it's definitely a bit too red. Thinking maybe if we just, oh, whoa. Yeah, no, don't do that. This needs to be below that. Okay. Good. Now it will, if you would see, it'll only affect that little bit down there. So I can make this darker, and actually, yeah, if I take that off, what I can probably do is, if I make it black and white again, it'll get rid of the red that I shot through. And now I'm going to go back to levels, and I'm going to just really kind of mess with the balance between light and dark in here, so that the lights and the darks are both really extreme. So you can see there's some like, if I zoom in, you can see that there are some dark pixels there next to some really light pixels, and it gives a little bit more of a rocky texture. So now we have shot through something. Not sure what. Something. And I mean it's too bright now, but now we can go back to color overlay with black. Do that. We can make it like darken it or something. There we go. So we shot through something. Hooray! But I'm a little unsatisfied with the bullet hole look, because it is a bullet through glass look. And I kind of like the white contrast on everything. So what I'm thinking is we can take the brush and we can go onto this layer and we can just get white in there. What we can do is we can make it feel like there's actually still some glass there by just kind of coloring in these shattered areas to kind of show like the light being distorted through the glass a bit, so it doesn't feel like this is just an image stuffed on top of the thing. It will feel like the glass was actually there. And actually what I really want to do is I want to select this, and actually let's go back through the history to before I was painting there and select all of that. There we go. And then select inverse, because now I can only paint inside the selected region, so even if I try to paint here it won't, and this way I can just make sure I won't accidentally start drawing random nonsense over here. Then on this background, if I like make this background black or something, you'll be able to. So if I was like drawing here, you could see it's affecting the shades there, and I don't want it to. So by doing this and then inverse, and there are shortcuts for this, I'm just not using them because You know, no reason to. This way you actually get to see what I'm clicking. So here I think I just want to kind of fill out the glass look a little bit. Kind of give it that nice frosted look that glass has, you know. And glass for the most part is like really clear, but whenever we like picture glass, we think of, oh yeah, it's got that kind of weird frosty look to it that makes it look not perfectly clear. And as you can see now, the texture on the black was actually had some little specks in it that showed that the glass was actually a bit not perfect, and that kind of disappeared whenever we screened the image to get rid of the black. So we're kind of artificially putting that back in now. I think it makes for a nice look, nice finish on it, if you'll say that. Here we go. So okay, now I'm just adding more white, just kind of in a circle around. See, I've already kind of screwed up here by accidentally. Let's just get a nice small eraser, that really high, because see, I drew on a little bit of there and it changed the color of it, and I didn't want that. So there, got rid of that. Now I can deselect and reselect again, and there. Okay, that's a bit better. So now I won't accidentally draw there again. So now I think to kind of make it so it look like the glass is substantiated, I'm just going to draw lines out a bit. I think I'm going to take the opacity down even more. Is the hardness already down? There we go. Now it's at 0. So for these straight lines of glass, I think I'm just going to kind of give it a nice straight little ghost. You can see it a little bit there. I feel it just helps to reinforce the kind of glass look to it. Around some of these more shattered bits, you can color it in a little bit more. If you want, because those are the distorted bits. So the actually shattered bits of the glass should be notably whiter. So actually inside of here, you can add more white. Now I'm clicking a bunch because I don't really feel like raising up my opacity. So inside here it should be notably more white than outside of here, where the glass is kind of gradienting back to being normal. That's why I'm just kind of doing something simple with this to kind of outline a little bit the little outer limbs some without completely overdoing it. You can see it looks like it's got a little bit of a glow around it, a tiny bit. And now what I want to do is I just kind of want to add a little bit of cloudiness to around, and I think even 3% is too much for this. I'm just going to go with 1%, and I can add more later if I want. I want kind of general cloudiness around the thing that kind of gradients to less as you get further away. And you can see our bullet hole's now starting to look quite a bit more like a bullet hole and less like some weird sparky sparks, white sparky sparks. So there we go. Now I can just deselect, and if I, zoom out a little bit, I think that actually looks quite a bit better myself for having been shot through, I think this is a little too dark, honestly, if we're gonna have like a black background, so there we go. Okay, so we've shot through the screen. I kind of like that because the GGO logo has the bullet hole shot through it. So I think that's kind of an interesting go along with that, the feeling theme a little bit. actually want to pull the opacity out of this a little bit now. Just a wee bit. So you can still get those hexagons very, very, very obviously, but if I crank the opacity up, it takes away from the rock pattern a little bit, and the red lightens up the rock so you can see it a bit better in there. And I know I could make the stone lighter. I can go into here, I can do this, I can make it a little bit lighter, but I kind of like the super dark feeling that it gives. Maybe I'll go a little bit lighter here, and that should let me take the hexagons and put the opacity back up there. And then what I can just do is I can take the stone, I can take my brush, I can put it up to like 5% or something, and I can switch to black, and then I can kind of darken the rims of it a bit, because I still want the rims to feel like they're kind of blackened in the middle of nowhere and vacant darkness. Okay, there we go. So now that nice rock pattern comes through, and the hexagons are still there, so that looks a little bit better. So okay, now that we have the bullet hole that we're happy with, and we have the hexagons we're happy with, we can get rid of the copies. The copy things, as you can see, we don't really need those, so get out of here. So as you can see, we just actually got their layer count down way down. The reason the other one had such a high layer count was for each of the tech circles was a layer, and then each of the, I can just kind of mouse over down here and show you, each of the tech circles was a layer, and then each of the little turquoise rectangles was a layer, and then each of the OKs was a layer, and that kind of shot up my layer count quite a bit. So I think this is looking pretty sick, pretty killer. I don't know what you want to call it. Nifty? Nifty. I like that word. I use it quite a bit. It's looking nifty. So I'm thinking now we're probably at a good place to save. Saving is good. I did a test file earlier. I'll just save over that. It was just when I was messing with a couple things to see if the assets worked well together, because, you know, I don't want to go into this like tutorial completely blind. I want to look like I know something, you know. Don't want to look like a fool for you people. So I'll just save over that. So this is now saved. You can save it wherever. And one of the other things that I downloaded other than those assets, and again I'll have a link in the description, is, as you can see, I have the SAO UI font. So if I was to type something, if I typed in like white or something, this would be like SAO. It's funny, I didn't put it on the top layer, so there we go, that was white. SAO, so that's the SAO font that you've seen in some of my stuff. I like that font, I just like to use it for stuff now. But I downloaded this other one that I believe it starts with an H. Ah, yes, here it is. Hominage, I don't know. It's made by the same person who did the assets for the tech wheels, tech gears, tech circles, there you go, and also did the other sword art fonts. And so I found that, and it's actually it's the Gun Gale font. I don't know why they, I guess it's because there was an original font by them or something. They wanted to name it something different. It is the GGO font. So I'm thinking I can do a couple different things with this for the logo. I could kind of go with a similar way that this logo's done, with the Japanese and then the English underneath it. And conveniently, I actually have the text for Gun Gale right here in Japanese. These are the links that you will see once I actually make this an online video for all the different textures. You can find this on Wikipedia. It's the translation of Gun Gale Online into Japanese. So if I just paste that right here, totally have that. Yeah, let's keep it centered. And What font is it using? So I know it might have switched me. Yeah, it switched me to a Japanese font. I have a bunch of fonts, by the way. I kind of want one that's like a bolder font. So these are some of like, I think I have some Chinese fonts here. Some Japanese fonts. Oh, whoops. That might help. You know, if I actually chose a font, then I should be able to cycle through them. Here. Okay, let's find one that looks like it bolds it a little bit. I like that one because it's a bit more standard and less whimsical. It's a bit fatter. See, look, that one's like whimsical. That one looks really cool, but it doesn't look computer generated enough. It looks very, very handwritten, so this one's also good. MSUI Gothic. I think I like UI Gothic over that. Yeah, I think I'll use that. Okay. Now at this point, this is a typography lesson, and typography. It's a battle, alright, of how you want it to look. For this, I think I'm going to get rid of that and just put like a space or something in between them. There we go. So that's the two texts, and we have this little thing over here. If I want to mimic this, I think the letters need to be a lot closer together. For this, they feel a little bit spread out right now. So I think this will make them a little bit wider. That makes the letters just physically fatter. And I think this, I don't really do much typography. I think this is, yeah, that moves them together. So if you put negative numbers up here, you can stick all of your text together. So if I was to do like 250 here, make them even wider, then I have to go like negative 200 here to like stick it together, but I don't want that. So that doesn't look too bad. It's very, very close together. Some of these are very close together. Maybe negative 1, I don't know, 45? Actually like the 150 just a wee bit better. What you will notice is that totally made the space between them a lot harder to see. There we go. That looks a little bit nicer. See, that made the space between these infinitely harder to see. Is it right here? Which one of these is the space? I think it's right here. Yeah, okay, see? So I'm gonna put a couple little blanks between these to get an actual slot in between them. Oh, what I'm thinking is I'm just gonna go with I could just go with something simple, like putting it down here. I could go with like putting the bullet hole as the dot between the two of them. I had thought about that, but it felt awkward, so I don't think I'm gonna do that. I think I'm just gonna keep this kind of simple. Keep it down here. Now I don't type the dot. I don't have the dot in my text. I don't know the alt commands for the dot, so it's really easy. All you have to do is make a dot yourself, which you can go find your ellipse tool wherever you are, whatever program you're using, and you can make a dot. Hooray! Look, we're typing Japanese. Not really. And then kind of find a nice little balance for it in between the two. Now, one thing I can say is I think this needs to be a bit closer together. And I want it a little bit taller. Though I don't want my ellipse to be taller, so I'm going to put these closer together and then make it a little bit taller. I don't want my ellipse, or actually it's a circle right now, but I don't want it to become an ellipse. That would be bad. it look all weird and wonky. I can just reposition this to be up in the center between the two of them, dividing it up. And you can pronounce it like a stereotypical Japanese person, Ganu Geru Online, something racist along those lines. But yeah, I kind of like that. Just it's very, very plain and to the point. And I think the background is convoluted enough. We don't need complicated typography on top of that. Then what I can do is I can actually go back to the H's. I go to this one, and I can type gun gale online. And I understand right now that the font is all stuffed together because of this. I can just make it. There you go. But if you look over here, like the sword art line actually has kind of gaps between their font. So if I make this like a positive number, I can get some gaps in between my letters, and I think that actually adds an interesting look to it. So let's 200 does an interesting, really good amount to it. What's 250 look like? Yeah, there we go. Very lots of blanks between the two of them. So okay, I'm down for that. That's the English, and let's make it a little bit smaller. Don't want it taking too much of center stage here. I can take that and oh, whoops. There we go. Bring the ellipse with me. Forget that's not part of the text already. Okay, we can pull that down. And I think for a basic layout, this is pretty good. You can save your nonsense I'm saving. So okay, I think for a basic kind of layout, I like the way this looks. I like the way the text is set up. And now we can go on to actually making the text look a little fancier. So again, typography is not the best at it, but I can say if you just use layer styles, you can usually make text look pretty nifty. That's how I make all of my thumbnails. I type something and I slap some layer styles on it, usually call it a day at that. So let's add a stroke. And what color do we want? Let's just leave it black for now. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Wait. Oh wait, I'm poking at the gun gale text first. Let's do the big text first, and then I can just copy the layer style off of that if I like the way it looks. Not satin, stroke. And for seeing purposes, because I can't see it right now, let's make it a silly color. Pink. There we go. How big do I want it? Probably something like that. Yeah. Now we can go back to like black. And you might be wondering why black with like all this dark, because I'm a big fan of outer glows. And if I can get outer glow to work properly, you'll be able to see why I like outer glows. There we go. Ah, look how nice that looks now. There we go. Not the right color, obviously. I'm going to go with a white outer glow. That'll complement the kind of faded glass look and the white of the bullet hole. And then it'll, you know, kind of contrast with the black outline. The text is still kind of boring right now, so we can go with like a gradient overlay. And well, red seems to be our theme right now, so let's gradient it black and red. And then you can just take this and mess with the balance for, whoops, not that. You can mess with the balance for where you want the mixing to begin and end and everything on this. I like that. Maybe make this a little bit less red. Well, no, let's make it a happier red. You know, this is the text. It needs to stand out. It needs to be bold and go for it. And yeah, I'm happy enough with that. And we can bevel it to make it look like it's 3D, but I don't want the text itself to be beveled. Contouring will just make it a stauncher bevel, so you can see like it really chisels it. So let's chisel it. Let's make it a hard chisel. Now it's kind of this, it's got that 3D poppy text feel to it. I want an outer bevel actually, where the what's it called? The stroke gets the bevel, not the font. And what that'll do is the font will still look like really fake and like really flat and feel like text. To me, text needs to feel like text. It doesn't need to feel like part of the background unless that's what you're going for. When it's something like this, the background is the background and the text is the text. And you need some kind of intermediary to make them work together. But I don't like it when my text feels like part of the background. But it's kind of bright and stuff right now, so let's just really roll back the yeah, let's really roll back the highlights, and let's just, oh, okay, yeah, that's too much, too much. Let's just, yeah, where do we want that? Looks okay. As for the shadows in it, kind of wonder how this look if we just normaled it. No difference. Okay. Is there really no difference? Yeah, not really. Okay. Anti-aliasing it, I don't know, makes it look nicer. Should make it look nicer. That's what anti-aliasing does. So that's pretty nice looking. I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe if I take the gradient, what I can do is I can take this black and I can make it slightly less than black, and that'll just make it stand out against the background a little bit better. Say slightly less than black. And I will pull this over a little bit so that the gradient line is more halfway up the text. I'll add a last stop here, make it full black, so the very bottom of it will be pitch black, but then it'll very quickly turn to slightly less than black. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty down for that. Mixing line up a little bit more still. Alrighty. Okay, that's looking pretty dandy to me. Outer glow. Do we want to make you any brighter or anything? I can make you a little bit brighter. Increase the range, it'll smooth it out a little bit. If I decrease it, it'll start looking bricky, like that. So I like higher range. It makes it look more glowy. This is just kind of a fiddly part where you just like, well, what looks best? Well, that's kind of up to the individual. So okay, I'm happy enough with that. That's good enough. I can right click and I can copy layer styles, and I can be like, oh, the ellipse needs it, and then I can like paste layer styles, and I'm gonna have to poke at that here because it's got a weird issue because the ellipse is white and that's showing up. Fixable. Then I can paste layer styles onto that text down there, and these will need some fiddling every time you do it, because like the stroke is still sized correctly for the other one, so you can pull that in. The bevel size is also sized correctly for the other one. You can pull that in. And the gradient overlay, since this is the subtext, I want the red to actually be a little bit more visible. So, there you go. As for this ellipse, why do you have that weird ugly circle around you? That weird ugly circle. Oh, I know. I'm stupid. See, if I click away from it, it disappears. It's because it's telling me that this is a vector layer. Yeah, if you create a shape in Photoshop, it's not a raster image. You have to right-click rasterize. It's a vector image. And so, like, it's telling me, like you can see, here's the points of the vector. It's telling me that this is still a vector image. So if I just click away from it, then it'll disappear. And honestly, that's really all there is to it. As you can see, we honestly don't have that many layers. This is pretty simple, pretty standard kind of stuff. Maybe move the ellipse to the right a little bit. So, there you go. Yeah, there we go. And maybe move the gun gale text over a little bit. But I think this looks pretty good, so let's save it. And we'll just save this as a PNG. I like PNGs, I'm not a big fan of JPEGs. I have an Android phone, so I have to use JPEGs because Android can't read PNGs. I'll save this as GGO BG PNG. So okay, let's see how that looks. Yeah, none. I don't need to compress that. Okay, so let's just minimize that, and we should be able to personalize, and I can change my desktop background, browse, it's going to be under me, it's going to be under my downloads, it's going to be under tutorial. I have that. Alrighty, how's that look? So sure, let's save changes, why not? So yeah, that totally doesn't look half bad. I mean, I spent the time to make the other one, and you can see with the white outlines, this looks okay, and also this is themed for sword art and not for gun gale or black and red scarydom. But you know, I don't know, looks okay to me. Wouldn't say it's the best thing I've ever made, but for having done it in a fairly short period of time, I can't complain. So yeah, that's been how to make a background in Photoshop, or at least how I do it. Again, I just take assets that I find online that I like. Say I find an image and I like it, I'm like, oh, that might look cool, and I can take it in, and you can do whatever you want to it. You can change the color balance in it, but yeah.